My name is Del Scheaffer.
And tell us what you're just telling me. Where were you in World War II?
Well, Scott, in September of 1941, I entered my freshman year of high school at the Mercy High School for Girls in Chicago. At that time, we were aware of the war in Europe, and even though we didn't have television, there was a lot of radio coverage, and we would hear the bombs going off in London, etc. And then newspaper coverage. And my father was a news buff, so I inherited that from him. When Pearl Harbor happened, it was as shocking to us at that time as 9/11 was, even though we didn't have TV. But we really were frightened. And living in the city of Chicago, we thought we were going to be a major target. Now, luckily, the school that I went to, it had 1,000 girls, and we were all mobilized immediately. We were given first aid courses. We did scrap drives where we picked up pots and pans and tin cans, etc. Victory gardens. My Aunt Helen always had a victory garden. So I was one of the people who helped to show others how to plant stuff, and we took empty lots in Chicago and made victory gardens from them. Another thing we did at the school was to sell war stamps, because when you filled up the book of the stamps, then you got the war bond. And another thing we were encouraged to do is V-mail rather, which I'm sure you know now is the onion skin paper. And these are some of the people to whom I wrote. These three fellows were pen pals through friends of mine. This was a fellow who had worked for my dad in Italy, and at that time everybody was inducted. This man hardly was literate. And I remember his sending a letter to my father just with the address Chicago, and my father got it. And these were school chums of mine in later years. And this was my beloved brother, Don, who had been in the Aleutians and then went into Germany. And he had a great sense of humor. And here he is.
So these are mock photos, okay.
Yeah, mock photos of him. And there was a conductor called Ted Fiorito. He had a big band orchestra, and that's my brother. And I don't know why I circled his face there, but anyway, that was when he was home on leave, and then, of course, some friends. Well, the V-mail was fine, but the biggest thing that we had at our school in 1943, the Civil Air Patrol became part of the Army Air Force. And everybody in town knew New York Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, because on Sunday morning he read the comics, to the kids. And we had someone in Chicago who did that. And so he encouraged FDR to have the Civil Air Patrol, particularly because we knew there were spies coming. And in fact, there was a Bund group on the block I lived in, the German Bund. And I remember the police coming and getting them, and of course we were kids, being a teenager then was very different, as you can appreciate. We were more naive, let's put it that way. But anyway, the school started the Civil Air Patrol, and the first thing we did, we took courses, would you believe, in meteorology to find out all about the science of weather, when the planes might come. We took courses in planes identification, and we marched. We had khaki uniforms, just like the soldiers. The girls had skirts, and the boys who used to come from the boys' schools would also use our gym, because this is a picture of the school I went to. And we had this huge gym at the top, and then, of course, the roof where we practiced with high-power binoculars. And we were sent up there for plane identification.
You had the little silhouette charts too, right?
Yeah, everything. And we were near Midway Airport, which was the main Chicago airport, which was on the south side of the city. So planes would be flying, and we would be tested on identifying those particular planes. Now, fortunately for us, and I don't have any pictures of us in uniform, because our high school yearbooks were not bound the last 2 years of school. They couldn't do that just because of the war. So I don't have any pictures of those. I lost those in my travels around. But fortunately, we were never summoned. See, we would have been summoned downtown or to specific areas of the city if we had been needed to, and specifically that's what I have to tell.